Craig Aarons Martin proudly serves as the CEO of CCM Education Group, an education consulting agency and progressive think tank dedicated to co-creating solutions in leadership, cultures of belonging, change management, and equity. His work extends beyond pre-K-12 education to include partnerships with companies and other organizations, driving transformative change through culture, inclusion, and belonging. Welcome to Cold Press Conversations. I'm Dr. Jewel, and I currently have Craig Aarons Martin with me. Y'all, I got to tell you, there's no one like Craig. He took an opportunity and allowed it to explode into something that is, I don't like magical. How should I word it? That is something that allows the person who's in education to take that deep breath and experience nothing but excitement for him or herself. And that's the reason why I have Craig on today. Craig and I are mutual friends. We met about, oh my gosh, it's going to be 2.5, almost 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard to believe. Hard to believe. Y'all, I'm going to tell you, I put in a little mini proposal and I said, I'm just going to try it. We're going to see what happens. And it was accepted. I went on ahead and I said, I am going to travel for Craig. All right. And I sure did. I hopped on that plane. Because I wanted to be there to support his efforts of being an educator because it was worth it. Let me tell y'all, I filmed everything you could think of. I may even have to just show some other things, but he and I took pictures. I mean, he is excellent. I was listening to this young lady today. She was talking about the difference between excellence and the difference between just doing it. You know, I'm going to define it today. Craig Aarons Martin is excellence. Go ahead. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Every time I turn it on, y'all, he is not in the United States. Or if he is in the United States, he's doing something else. He's on a mission.
I'm only on a mission for the hearts, minds, and spirits of those who we serve, right? And so I would say that I am a humble servant leader who happens to be a liberator in leadership, a cultivator of joy, a disruptor of systems that forgets the soul of our students and the spirit of our schools is actually on our shoulders, in our hearts, in our hands. And so I've been gifted with this opportunity to work with educators and leaders and parents and young people. And it's a gift that I don't take for granted. And I'm grateful to be in community with you and your audience today.
Did you hear that? I don't call that poetic. I just call that just a gift. He and I, with some of the classes that we've taken together, some of the coaching classes that we've taken together, we realized that sometimes we could be in our zone of excellence or our zone of just giftedness. But I believe when we were asked to identify our genius, Craig has been able to do that. And so I normally don't have people discuss their, when it comes to wellness, we'll discuss their business at hand. But I'm doing this intentionally, Craig. I'm going to pull you out because I think we need to talk about leadership and wellness because you hold many hats.
Yes, I do. It is interesting that at this point in time where we see everything that we have been accustomed to in the way we educate young people, we've understood that the system has never really been designed, especially for Black and Brown young people, folks who are at the margins. Our genius continues to elevate beyond the systems because we are rooted in genius and greatness. And our ancestors poured so much into us that we can make molecules magic for the next person next to us, right? And so this year, it was me centering on what is brave leadership. We're in a time where people are trying to erase and eradicate us. My spirit will not die. Our spirits collectively will resist this foolishness. I'm gonna call it foolishness for right now, just for your wonderful audience.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
But there's some really big things that I think about with when I think about how I've centered my business this year, how I'm centering the voices of those who are most marginalized, those who are feeling paralyzed by the perils of humans who are leaning into embracing white supremacy beliefs, cultures, principles, and are trying to, in some way, disrupt what they think is wasteful in regards to the investments in teacher leadership, teacher pathways, in equitable DEI measures. If we got into this conversation, like if we really leaned into it, everyone is targeted. If we really look at this, everyone is targeted. Everyone is a victim of this work, except for white men who happen to be in positions of power. And so how do we actually get bold enough, right? And making sure that what we do, what we do is not whisper in a corner. Right now, we need everybody to be roaring in boardrooms, classrooms, school committees, in whatever ways you can. And we absolutely cannot afford to die in silence, because that's complicity. And so what we need is brave leaders who are willing to disrupt the status quo and not maintain it.
As a leader, and we're going to have to be very careful of how we work through this process,
Yeah.
because we can become burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
And with you wearing multiple leadership roles, you have just only the ones that I know, you have 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
4 roles that I have.
I do a lot.
Right.
Not only.
But I got to put this out here. I love my men. Okay. And I just finished talking to your best friend. I call him best
Mm, mm,
friend. The 2 of y'all did a project together
mm.
with the boys,
Yes. Yes.
Roderick.
Yeah, we did the Black Boy Joy Summit. So I did the Black Boy Joy Summit, and actually, and I'm not sure whether or not he has showed up on your podcast yet. Victor Hicks has
Yes.
shown up. Roderick, yes, is doing phenomenal. I mean, since we last saw Roderick, I mean, book,
Like what?
over like thousands of followers. Keynoting and doing amazing things. But I think that's a reflection of each of us when
That's right.
we are rooted in our purpose and passion.
Right.
There is no ceiling to what how powerful our experiences can be that actually are transformative for those, and give people the battery in their back they need in order for them to live more authentically and radically in who they are and all of their humanity.
The reason I brought this up
Mm.
is based off of our coaching.
Yes.
It's creating that team
Mm-hmm.
to build what you would like to see.
All right.
And that's exactly, you're showing that not just having an accountability partner,
Mm-hmm.
but showing camaraderie, showing putting ideas together and building that community so that you can reach our boys who
Yes.
are getting themselves to prepare to be men. I'm wording it carefully
Yes.
because I don't have any of the trademarks, but we're taking them from being a boy to a man.
Yes, absolutely. Something I think about is Sharif El-Mekki, who had spoke at, and so for those who don't know, like he's over at the Center for Black Educator Development. Like he has been such a mentor, teacher for so many of us, and he says education should be an act of resistance and restoration. And one of the key things that he said in a conversation at Harvard that I hold dear, he said many things that are absolutely glaring and absolutely necessary. But one of the things he said that I hold dear is each Black boy who sees himself in his teacher is witnessing a sacred reflection, proof that he is seen, valued, and destined for greatness. And so I know how much power I got from Charles Vincent, who was my educator. And I think about Dr. David Johns from the National Black Justice Center, who again is a constant teacher for me, and so many educators who stand right alongside me, in front of me, behind me. And I believe I am here because someone saw me, helped to nurture something that they saw in me and got me to a place where that genius, that seed was planted and I couldn't allow it couldn't die. Like I am that rose that grew from the concrete. And I'm deeply grateful for the investment of each educator who has stood in the gap for me and made sure that I flourished.
How do they teach you to protect your mental
Mm,
capacity?
mm,
Ladies and gentlemen, the reason I wanted Craig on here, and I'm just going to be really honest, is
mhm.
because I really want people to see the importance of the Black male,
Yes.
the importance of, and a lot of people are going to be very surprised that I've said this, but I'm saying this because there's so much that I learned from my fellow Black educators as a principal, and just upbringing collectively, like you stated, the influence.
Yeah.
And when they have a chance to be in that collective, and my husband was a part of a group that focused on the Black male,
Mhm.
we saw some, not being miraculous, but like gifted, blessed things happen.
Yeah.
And what you're doing, that one conference that y'all had,
Mm.
I don't think you imagine it to go to that level.
And so the Black Boy Joy Summit has been an opportunity to create an ecosystem, a spirit and energy that manifests brilliance, genius, collaboration, creating an environment where young people can actually co create a blueprint of success for themselves among many other men and women who have something to offer, whether or not you're an entrepreneur, whether or not you are a city official, whether or not you are an educator, whether or not you're in STEM or chemistry, or you just happen to be a business person who has your own business, because there's so many of the young people who I had an opportunity to encounter who have their own dreams and aspirations and need a broader village that will nurture and nourish them into them actually gaining and actualizing their own dream.
Ooh, there's nothing, and that's what I thought was so amazing.
Mhm.
It felt like you were reaching these young men through Black Boy Joy. Like
Absolutely.
looking at the photos and seeing the young men,
Yeah.
it wasn't about their intenseness of being in the room. It was that you had their ear.
Hmm.
They were looking at you, not you particularly, but I'm talking about all the men that were in the room,
Yes.
they
Yeah.
were looking, and you could see that they were just eating it up. They were filling their souls with it, their spirit with it.
Yeah.
Your photos gave that to
Yeah.
me. So
Yeah.
so I could only imagine what it was like for those young men to be in the room.
It was electric. We had we had over 300 people there for something that never happened before. We had approximately 200 young men who dropped in, all of them middle and high schoolers. Um, we had some elementary, we had some 10-year-olds who were like, I'm coming. And we welcome them because I'm like, what we want to do is create an experience that the expanse of what they would experience in workshop and in keynote in our youth panel, which was dynamic, would be of inspiration to put them in position that if you just give them an opportunity to experience just insights, wisdom, workshop with someone who is invested in them, who may not be part of their day to day ecosystem, but is very much empowered to say, hey, I'm willing to give what I've got. I'm willing to give you connection to people in in my sphere, my space. I'm willing to be a resource to you because I want to make sure that you are set forward as someone who is going to come right behind me. That generation is so important. Our generational wealth is through storytelling. It
Yeah.
is through spending quality time, giving of ourselves and being of resource so that the next young person can build off of those lessons, those insights, and those failings. Because how many times have we had to fail forward in order for us to
Mhm.
flourish and thrive? And
Yeah.
that's what this is about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have a business also, and I normally don't go through this. The reason I'm coming to a point, but you
Yeah.
also have a business,
Yeah.
and I have seen that you took a shift.
Mm. Say more.
Literally took a huge shift.
Uh huh.
Like your business, instead of me going Why'd you make a shift in your business? And I want you to tell them what it was like and why you made that shift. Because I see something very different getting ready to happen.
Oh yeah, it is insanity. What I will say, and you know, one of our mutual teachers is Dr. Erica Jordan Thomas.
Yeah.
And you know, it is important for us to believe in our genius and our gifting. It is important for us to embrace our story. And what I recognize is my full-time career has been in education. I've only served mostly in classrooms, in schools. Like that has been my work in my walk. And so me taking a bet on myself and a leap of faith that God will align this path for me that will allow for healing and wellness, I mean, to take care of my loved ones, but also flourish in my passion, which is working with educators, working with school leaders, working with nonprofit leaders, working with corporate leaders in order to help them broaden how they humanize the experiences in their ecosystems. How
Mhm.
can we help to strategize and incite inspiration and joy
Yeah.
and make sure that that is part of the culture. And
Mhm.
so for me, I think I started off with a couple of clients that were centered on strategy work and centered on what I've come to know to be true is how do we actually work with humans, young and old, to actually ensure that people can be seen, valued, and loved. And that's through coaching, that's through workshop, that is through consultancies, that's through courageous conversations. And the powerful work that has happened so far has been transformative for me to the degree that like now I have like a Brave Leadership Accelerator that I'm super excited to be kicking off. And it's just gonna blow up in ways I can't imagine. And it's just another gift that is gonna be part of the work. So I got Black Boy Joy Summit. I have two books that I'm working through to finish for this year, podcast Brave Voices, and I
Mhm.
also happen to have, you know, this Brave Leadership Accelerator that's also gonna be dope.
It's the humanization I thought that was interesting, the way that you decided to take that shift. Not saying that none of us are humanizing what we're doing. We
Yeah,
know and acknowledge that we are humans, but
yeah,
we also have to consider the wellness of who we are. And that's the reason why I wanted to bring that in, because you're realizing that sometimes, and I'm not speaking ill of anybody, I've been into some amazing workshops, amazing experiences where we're talking to the teacher and not developing and humanizing it for the teacher so he or she can evolve.
yes, yes, yes. It's it's huge hard work because what I find to be true. Another one of the teachers that I lean in on is like Dr. Brene Brown, who talks about vulnerability and shame. And so what I recognize even in my practice is as a teacher, as a school leader, I have to say before young people, before adults, hey, I'm still growing. I'm still developing. I'm still one who will continue to make shifts and adjustments because the people in front of me matter. You matter. And I need to make those adjustments. I need to hear you, not for response or reaction, but because there's something you want me in the world to hear. And so what I'm continuing to learn in this work and in this walk is that there is a lot of there's so many things I wish I could had enough time to really deep into it, but right now there is just such efforts for us to live in fear and deep apathy and find ourselves paralyzed.
Mm.
And with Brene Brown, she talks about, you know, being vulnerable does not mean that we're not strong. Like
Uh,
being able to say, like, this is how I feel. I'm just not sure where to step into this what feels like a tsunami of things that are happening. I don't really know how to lean in and actually affect change. And sometimes it can be small disruptions, quiet disruptions, I call it, where it could be like, well, can you fuel and fund a cause that means something to you? There are people at grassroots who are doing the work out there protesting or creating all kinds of good trouble. Can you help to fuel that? Can you actually create a space where people could just talk? You
there we go.
just open up whatever it is that you is free and accessible. Just come by, bring a little something that we can all nourish on,
Yeah.
and just create the space. That can be powerful. And so sometimes people think that this work has to be huge and we got to protest and we got to do all these movements and we got to have all this money. And so, like, there's so many examples of us just standing rooted in who we are and knowing where our gifting lies, that we can actually do so much for folks who just need the time to lean in on others. And that starts with us just saying, hey, I can't do 10 things. I can do this one. I
And,
know this one.
and that's what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're doing. And that's why I really wanted to bring that out. Before we close, I really and truly want you to give, because we talk about spiritual wellness as well. We talked about the emotional. We did. We talked about the emotional quite a bit. And you talk about the social part of wellness. You've included all that. If you could give one key nugget about spiritual wellness, because I believe that's your backbone of leading you throughout your journey of becoming even greater than what you're on now. What is one key tip that you would give anyone out there?
I'm wrestling because I have two prayers that happen over the course of this week that have been very informative for me. One is Psalm 90:17. May the favor of the Lord, our God, rest on us, establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish the work of our hands. And so in this is Moses, right, who is working for liberation of people and justice and transformation. And what it reminded me, like this message deeply, is God recognizes that who we are and what we have the capacity to do, and we are honored for that as long as we're committed to God and the greater work of the human spirit, and family. And we're part of something greater. And so we may not know all of the things that we need, that we can do, but God really will illuminate for us, hey, you actually, can be justice oriented by testifying, right? At a particular movement, or you actually can pray for those who are grieving. You can actually be someone, if healing is what you do, holding a podcast, sending text messages, sending just, in your spirit of meditation, sending thoughts and prayers of healing and meditation for those who are suffering in trauma, right? Or be in a place that says, okay, I'm going to make sure we fund something for those who are homeless on it, at the edge of, despair because they've lost everything, that we have the ability to fuel healing in such a powerful way. And that is what is in our hands. And so when I think about this time, which feels relentless in regards to how much we're dealing with, God has always seen us through what feels like a Red Sea. We always get to the other side.
Yes.
And so we just have to believe that if God has done it, right now it feels untenable. I'm not going to lie. It feels untenable even for me. But I have to believe that if God got us through the civil rights movement, if God got us through Jim Crow, if God got us through enslavement, he will deliver us through from this situation. And it starts with our head and our heart and us just taking one brave step in our humanity. And that can actually add to another, add to another, add to another. And who knows where it will take you. But you just have to have the faith to be able to lean into something that feels greater than yourself and know that you're never alone and by yourself. God has never let us just flounder. God wants us to flourish, and we just have to lean into that belief.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Craig Aarons Martin. He is a giver of a heart. He works with our students, our parents, our teachers. He is a world traveler who wants to spread the word of humanization and making sure people know that we are truly humans and embodiment of Christ. So once again, thank you so much for joining us at Cold Press Conversations, and may you please join us again for our next guest.